Science and evil collide. Oh, yeah. Now, a serial killer is on the loose.
We hadn't even tested the acid on an amoeba, let alone a human cell. This is a disaster.
Look, I just saw something that doesn't belong in this world, and it's out there killing my friends. Now tell me what it is.
Jack Frost.
I think Jack's about to make an entrance. And he's giving Cold-Blooded a whole new meaning.
Hey, Jack! What? You left the 7-10 split.
Hell has just frozen over. Blow me. Jack Frost.
Look, Ma! I'm a Picasso!
Yo guys, what's up? This is Adam here. I Can't See the Guy. Welcome to the Movie Vault. Right, reviewing more Christmas movies. Now, I guess you can call this a Christmas movie because it takes place around Christmas time. It's got that Christmas atmosphere, you know, with all the snow, the snowstorms and snowmen and all that kind of shit. Well, this movie is not to be confused with the Jack Frost film which starred Michael Keaton, the Christmas holiday film. It's not to be confused with that. This is a movie that came out in the year of 1997. It's known as Jack Frost, and it's a black comedy slasher movie. Written and directed by Michael Cooney, and it stars Scott McDonald and Christopher Allport. Now, I want to be really honest with you about this movie. It's a straightforward movie, but it's very cheesy, it's very low budget, and it's very goofy, or whatever the fuck you want to call it. It's just so... It's an unbelievable film, you know, where it's meant to be like a gory comedy ride, basically. You know, now I remember seeing this movie back in the day. I just watched it again moments ago so I could do this review for you. And after watching it, I don't know what I saw in this movie. I had fun with it, don't get me wrong. But I remember when I watched this for the first time when I was a kid, I was very overwhelmingly disappointed in the movie because the film did not scare me not one little bit. I mean, I don't know if this movie is meant to scare you, but to cut a long story short, when I was a kid and Blockbuster was still around, you know, I used to walk around in the horror section because my mum hated horror movies. She looking like the Disney family section of all the movies, and I was looking like in the horror section or like all the VHS. Coming onto DVD back then, it was all VHS. And one thing that really stood out years ago about VHS tapes in Blockbuster is the front covers of the horror films. Of course, you had your Nightmare on Elm Street, your Friday the 13th, you had the Child's Play, Halloween, and you had all these intriguing, colourful front covers on the VHS that really stood out. And I came across this one VHS tape called Jack Frost. And the front image drew me into it straight away, thinking, hey, this looks good, it looks really scary. Because on the front cover it's a snowman, you know, like you see just here, with the fangs, and it was starred Jack Frost. And I'd pick up this VHS tape and read the back, and I'd see all these gruesome images of people all covered in blood, and I'll be thinking, this looks really cool. And I'd say to my mother at the time, can we rent this? And she'd say, no, you're not old enough to be watching that. And it looks like it won't set a good example, so you're not fucking watching it. You know what I mean? So I'd be like, oh shit, I've got to wait till I'm 18 to watch this. It must be really scary. It must be like really gory. But I watched it for the first time when I was like about 13. I believe it was... did I rent this movie when I first saw it? Or was it for free on TV? I can't remember. All I know is I watched it for the first time free on VHS, and I was overwhelmingly disappointed. Because I was expecting a scary, gory ride. I mean, this movie does have its scenes of gore, and kudos to it. It did have some good effects for it to be a low-budget movie, because I've got nothing against low-budget movies. There's some low-budget movies that I could eat popcorn. They're like popcorn movies, and I could watch them, but when I saw Jack Frost, I was like overwhelmingly disappointed, and I never watched it ever again. And I just watched it again moments ago so I could do this review, and I'd have to say, looking back, I can understand why I was pissed off at the time, because I was just by looking at the front cover, I was expecting something special. But after watching it moments ago, I still had fun with it. I mean, basically what the movie is about, Scott McDonald plays this criminal who's being transported in this prison vehicle to be executed. And the atmosphere is very stormy, it's very snowy, and the vehicle ends up crashing into this other vehicle, you know, and Jack Frost in the process gets melted into the snow because of all these chemicals that spray into him. And first he turns into a skeleton, then he turns into a gory, skinless Frank like from Hellraiser, and he falls into the snow and he slowly disappears into the snow. And his blood cells all form together in the snow to form a snowman. And he later becomes a killer snowman. But we learn a little bit of a backstory that the sheriff of this town was the one who caught Jack Frost in the first place and got him to be executed. And throughout the whole movie, Jack Frost is saying things like, I'll find a way to kill you and your family. You know, basically getting revenge for capturing him in the first place. And that's basically what the movie's about. It's about Scott McDonald playing this snowman who's pissed off, and he's invading this small village around Christmas time. He's got one thing in mind, just to terrorise the neighbourhood, kill people around him, but more than anything, killing the sheriff and his family. And that's basically what it's all about. And one by one, you get all these kills. You get a bully who gets his head cut off in a sledge because Jack Frost pushes him into the sledge and his head becomes decapitated. There's another gruesome scene where these two couples are about to have sex, and Jack Frost can shoot these ice daggers out of his hands, and an ice dagger goes through a guy's shoulder and then through his brain. And when the ice dagger, of course, gets pulled out, you can see his brain thumping on the other side of the door. You know, and Jack Frost is cracking all these jokes at the same time. All these corny one-liners, as if he's trying to be Freddy Krueger. You know, and I did chuckle at a few scenes. I mean, there's also the girl from American Pie who played Nadia, which I believe is played by Shannon Elizabeth, is also in this movie. And she dies in a rape scene because she's in the bathtub and Jack Frost puts the carrot of his nose in between his legs and he's ramming her up against the wall, giving her a head injury, and she dies. You know, and Jack Frost is laughing along and saying things like, Christmas came early this year, you know, and I don't know whether to laugh at scenes like that, but it's still a rape scene at the end of the day. You're not meant to laugh at scenes like that because they're horrific scenes and people who commit rape should be executed on the spot. But when you got a killer snowman raping a girl from American Pie, you're watching this film and you're thinking, what the fuck am I watching here? You know what I mean? Because it's so corny, it's so unrealistic. You know, a killer snowman killing people, raping people. You know, how the fuck are you meant to take this movie seriously? You know what I mean? So, all these killings are happening one by one. The neighbour gets an axe handle through the throat. His wife gets her face smashed into some Christmas ornaments, and she ends up being strangled and tied up to a Christmas tree. Like I say, some decent effects for a low budget movie. You know, I like the prop scene of that guy in the rocking chair who has his neck snapped back. You know, so some good scenes there, good practical effects. You know, but I'm watching this movie and I'm thinking to myself, you know, this movie's raising too many questions. Like in that scene, you know, where Jack Frost is driving a police car. You're thinking to yourself, how can he drive a police car when he's got no fucking legs? How can he work the pedals? You know, and how come the policeman did not notice Jack Frost getting inside the cop car because he's like 10 times more bigger than him? You know what I mean? And you do think to yourself, how can Jack Frost actually move when he's got no legs? So that's always puzzled me. When it comes to the showdown, when the sheriff really finds out Jack Frost who he really is, it's basically just a showdown with the sheriff and some other people who are still alive in the town. They use fucking hair dryers to tackle Jack Frost, you know, it's his weakness because it's hot and, you know, it makes it melt. I really wish in the ending scene they could have done a lot more between the sheriff and Jack Frost, you know, like a shooting scene or, you know, like a shotgun scene, you know, that would have been nice if he could use a shotgun to blow Jack Frost into pieces, like a hand blowing off or, you know, the head blowing off and things like that. But we don't get anything like that. Instead, the final showdown takes place in a pool of antifreeze, you know, where the sheriff, Sam Tyler, and the Jack Frost are like wrestling with each other, and he ends up putting him inside the fucking antifreeze, and he ends up melting. You know. After thinking about what I've just witnessed, I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to come on here and rant because I'd be lying to you if I told you that this film completely fucking sucked. It didn't. I've seen some really bad low budget horror movies, and this one, like I say, is low budget. It is ridiculous. It is silly. It's of course Killer Snowman explains it all. I mean, but I like things like that. I like to watch films like toys coming to life, snowmen coming to life, you know, creatures coming to life, you know, in all like, these silly, goofy horror movies. I love movies like that. But what really pissed me off about this movie is the fact that I was overwhelmingly disappointed of how the film turned out when I first watched it. Because when I was a kid and saw it on VHS, the front cover, I thought to myself, this looks really scary, this looks really gory, have to see this. And when my mum wouldn't let me watch it, because it had an 18 certificate, I was thinking to myself, is this the movie that she really did not want me to see? You know? How ridiculous is this? You know? Many of you would say this would go on nicely on the kids' channel and be shown on Christmas TV around Christmas time, you know what I mean? So, goofy, silly, so many ways to describe this movie, but I had fun with it, I suppose. I won't watch it again. I mean, like I said, I've watched it twice now in my whole life. I definitely won't watch it again. You know, but like I say, it's not to be confused with the Christmas holiday film Jack Frost with Michael Keaton. This is the horror movie version. I've already mentioned that it was like made in 1997. In fact, its official release date was in November 18th of 1997. It's a short movie, an hour and a half. I mean, speaking of budget, like I said, it was only given a $500,000 budget. You know, but some good scenes of effects, I will admit. I like the incinerating scene, you know, where Jack Frost is like melting into the snow at the start of the film, you know, after the crash. I love that scene. That scene was like really well put together. Didn't mind that scene. And of course, the ending. They indicate that Jack Frost is still alive because they put him all these. They put the antifreeze in all these containers and they bury him. And one of them starts bubbling just before the credits roll, indicating that Jack Frost is still alive. And before you say yes, there is a fucking sequel to this movie called Jack Frost: The Revenge of Killer Snowman. I saw that movie years ago and that was one I really fucking hated. You know, will I review that one? I have no fucking idea. But I do not like the sequel to this movie at all. And from what I understand, they had plans for a third movie, but the actor who played Sheriff Sam Tyler, Christopher Allport, has passed away. So they said to themselves that the chance of them making a sequel to that movie is going to be very unlikely, you know. So it's really sad to hear about his passing. So this movie, I only recommend it to people who has a taste in movies like I do, in terms of silliness, goofiness, and your cheesy horror movies. And if you like your low budget horror movies, that's also a bonus. You know, so those are the type of people. It takes a special type of viewer to love a movie like this. You know, it can be a popcorn movie or a guilty pleasure to some. You know, if you want to watch horror movies around Christmas time, you know, this is one that many people would pick out. But again, in my opinion, there's loads of great horror movies to watch around Christmas other than Jack Frost, you know what I mean? Black Christmas and some other Christmas horror movies. There's some that I would really recommend above this movie, Jack Frost. That's all I've got to say. So, anyway, everyone, that's all I've got to say about this movie, Jack Frost. Like I say, it's fine for shits and giggles. You know, it's fine for shits and giggles. But just aware, it does go over the top with the cheesiness and the goofiness. The cheesy one-liners coming from Scott McDonald, who plays Jack Frost. It does go way over the top about how a snowman can do all these chaotic things, you know, when he's got no legs or anything like that. How the fuck can he drive a police car? How the fuck can he move to one place to another? You know what I mean? He appears in one place and then appears in a different place, you know. So, you think you just have, how the fuck can this be possible? But it's not to be taken seriously, you know. But that's all I've got to say, everybody. Please like and leave a comment in this video, everyone, and we'll see where we go from here. Have a great Christmas, everyone. That's my review for Jack Frost from 1997. Thanks, everyone. Peace out.